Hi, friends. Welcome back to With Great People, the podcast for high-performance teams. I'm Richard Kasperowski. This episode is an interview with Dave West. Dave is product owner at Scrum.org. Dave talks about the feeling of belonging, the regular work rhythm of great teams, and remembering that everyone is human. To support this podcast, sign up for my newsletter at Kasperowski.com. Thanks for listening. Hi, friends, and welcome back to With Great People. Our special guest today is Dave West. Dave is product owner at Scrum.org. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Richard. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you here. What can you tell us about yourself, Dave?
Oh, I don't know. What would you like to know? Oh, I guess, I run Scrum.org for Ken Schwaber. That's kind of exciting. So I'm the product owner and CEO of Scrum.org, where my biggest stakeholder is the guy that was one of the guys that invented it. So you can imagine what that's like, Richard. Always exciting to have strong opinions. I suppose my personal mission is to help people improve the way they build software just a little bit. It used to be to help them to improve it a lot, and then I met the people and realized it's an uphill struggle. So written a few books. Probably one of my biggest claims to fame, other than being a Forrester analyst, running Ivar Jakobsen's company, was I was the product manager for the Rational Unified Process.
Oh, so
which that's kind of like gets me boos and hisses now on stage. But once it was cool, I suppose it's like being the head of the Spanish Inquisition. Once it was really fashionable, it's just doesn't do well over time, I guess. No, I mean, we did a lot of good things. River Up, obviously, there was some fundamental mistakes, and I think perhaps one of the biggest ones was this idea that you can build the perfect methodology. I know some people are trying to do it again now, but ultimately I think we've learned that the further you get away from the team, the harder it is to put anything in stone. And it depends. And it's a Wednesday. It's you're building a spaceship. It's So anyway, but I had a lot of fun doing it and learned so much and met some absolutely amazing people. In fact, perhaps that's what we're going to be talking about a bit today.
Well, let's see. So this is the podcast about high-performance teams. And I like to ask people this question. I like to ask, what was your best team ever? So it might be your current team at Scrum.org. It might be one of those past teams that you mentioned. It might be some other team. What was your best team ever?
Yeah, it's difficult to pick one because obviously the people here at Scrum.org are pretty amazing. I guess maybe because they're mentored and coached by the guy that invented Scrum. So they've always got a very, they're pretty good at, self-organization, empiricism, and all that stuff. But I don't really want to talk about them, even though they're awesome. I think because I think it's embarrassing, isn't it? So I think I got a couple. I think one of the most enjoyable teams was when I was on the Rational Unified Process team. Okay. And I know that, maybe the product we built, just to coin a phrase, do no evil, maybe it did a few things that were a little bit evil. I like to think it didn't, but, some people have difference of opinion. But ultimately, I think the team was really good. I think that it was good for a couple of reasons. I think we had a clear focus and mandate. I think that was really important. I think it was cool. It was definitely nice to go to conferences and people say, "Oh, you're the RUP product manager, or you're involved in the RUP team," and you're like, "Yeah, I am. Yeah, sorry, want me to sign something?"
So cool.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those sort of cool sort of things. I also think that we cared a lot about each other. And I think that was really, really, really important. It was an odd group of people ranging from, deep Java developers that are building something called Rational Process Workbench to people that were content editors, really, so sort of the people that were really good at English or American. As we were forced to use, unfortunately, but it was a very strange group. You wouldn't pick them as the group, but they really got on very well, and it was a lot of fun. And it had these sort of inspirational leaders, people like Philip Christian, people, these sort of very also not the people you'd expect, but they were really good at sort of instilling you with a feeling of this is a direction that we're going. This is why we're doing it. So I thought that was a lot of fun, and also I learned so much. Just to sort of Dan Pink autonomy, mastery, purpose. The purpose was really clearly articulated, but the other thing that was the mastery. I learned so much. I mean, imagine, people popped in like Grady Booch and, people like that. Ivar obviously was pretty amazing. And, there's all these people wandering in that you're just like, whoa. And they like, oh, what about this? And some of those people are, still around and they still inspire me every day. And I'm fortunate enough to, have this group of people that I still care about and that still help me. So I guess that's it. I guess it's purpose. I guess it's learning something. And I think, we were very autonomous. Nobody really wanted to mess with us, because we were the Rupp team. No, what the heck do they do? They're the Rupp team. And I think that was a lot of fun.
All right. So this team, the Rational Unified Process team, you had clear focus, mandate, purpose. It was cool. You cared a lot about each other. It was fun. Inspirational leaders. You learned so much. You had great autonomy. If you could distill all of that down to one word that describes the sensation of being on that team, do you have a word? Like sometimes people even close their eyes and meditate. We're on video together right now.
I know we are. And
so we could do this as like a guided meditation. I'm closing my eyes.
I have no idea what a guided meditation is. It sounds like something you wake up drunk from. But I would say belong. If I was going to use one word, I'd say belong.
Belong.
I felt like I belonged. Oh, belonged. If that just wasn't not a very easy word to say, is it really? So, but it was just funny. I think I felt at home. It was my peeps, and I don't know if that was by accident. Part of it was maybe, and I know on a personal level, I was going through some definitely comedy changes in my personal life, and there were certainly some things that weren't necessarily fabulous happening around me, but it was really it was a really good feeling of belonging and feeling like people care. And actually, if I think about, if you think about what I do at Scrum.org today and my team, you caring about people, feeling like you're part of something, feeling like you're changing the world is incredibly important, and feeling like you're part of it,
Yeah. So belonging. This is the one word. And what are some things that go into your deciding that this was the best team ever? So you gave a whole laundry list of things. Is there anything subjective that you could use to gauge that this was the best team, or anything objective that you could use to gauge that this was the best team?
I think that the question, what's the best team ever, really talks to your feelings, right? How you feel when you're in the team. I mean, yes, we were the most popular process in the world. That didn't help, did it? At that point, yes, we were speaking at large conferences, and yes, you got loads of emails about, oh my God, we're starting this project on this amazing, and can you come in and talk to us, and those sort of things that you had to play a little bit. And maybe it's to me, but my ego and the ego of the team, I think, yes, we delivered value. Yes, we were. Definitely successful in terms of the business terms, but ultimately the way I measured, to answer your question, it was how I felt. And when I was reading the email that you sent about, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about, and so I reflected for a moment. I think if I was cool, I'd call it I was mindful for a moment. But ultimately, I went to the loo and sat down and thought for a minute, and had a sit down think, and I thought, what's the best team? And I thought, and I instantly sort of went through all the teams I've worked on. I've worked on deep software projects where you're like, writing lots of oodles of code and that, and then I've worked on on a sales team. Sales teams are fantastic. It's like a roller coaster ride on a sales team. 1 minute you're like closing business, everything's awesome. You're going out, you're partying, you're drinking, you're delivering stuff. Your phone's always running, and then the next minute it's a complete like, oh my God, the pipeline looks horrible. and that's enjoyable for some reasons. But ultimately, I think if you try to combine all of those things, I think that the characteristics that the things that were most important to me were how I felt and how I felt about the others I was working with.
Yeah, so there definitely were some objective things. You were, you definitely were a successful team. You were delivering the stuff. You were, you had tons of people using it. You were getting dates at conferences and all that. But the most important thing was this subjective thing, the feelings about the team. So what else was it about the feelings?
I think it's the feeling. I used the word belong, didn't I? Yeah. And I think that there's a crazy sort of need. Human beings, I guess that's why we're the most successful of animals on the planet. I think that the being part of a tribe, being part of something is very important. I think that if you were a total like scientist and biologist, or I guess evolutionary biologist or whatever, you would say the reason what made you most successful was when you were as a tribe, because you could help support each other and survive and produce more product, food, etc., etc. And I think evolution has definitely kept that trait going, and the most successful of us are people that can that operate in a tribe. And I think that belong is probably the most important thing, and those people that I care about. Saying that, though, I was thinking, and as I was, on the loo, I was thinking, well, I haven't spoken to them for a long time, have I? I was like, what? Then I suddenly felt guilty, and then I was like, oh my God, what are they doing now? So then I was like, oh my gosh, time to look in LinkedIn. And so it's sort of, it's not necessarily, it's a moment. It's a moment in time. And I think that it goes and it comes, and that, I don't think it's necessarily forever as well.
Yeah, it's a moment in time. And that, Dave, that's the beautiful thing about this podcast. It reconnects you with your best team ever.
or makes you feel guilty for 10 minutes until you get another brandy. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So what are, on that team, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you did that were on purpose, maybe some things you did by accident. What were some of what are a few of the concrete behaviors that you engaged in when you were together on that team that led to all that success?
I hate to sound scrummy, even though we were sort of anti-scrum at this point.
Wait a minute, weird. You weren't doing scrum? It was...
No, we weren't. We're using RUP. But I didn't know we were doing some things that were from Scrum. I'd recently come into contact with Jeff and Ken at that point, and I thought, the crazy dudes, where's their software architecture document? What do you mean they're not using use cases? What the heck? But the regular meetings, we didn't have a daily Scrum of 15 minutes, but that binding motion was very important. I think that the regular cadence of a release schedule. Now, I think ours was a little too long, but that's sort of like regular. We knew where we were, we connected, we talked, all of these sort of things. I thought that was very, very, very important. I think just the rhythm was important. I think that really helped. We live in very complex times, don't we, Rich? I mean, the fact is that you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Sometimes I don't even want to listen to NPR in the morning anymore. It's sort of like this cascade of on another thing, and you're like, oh my God, it's disappointing. And so the stability, providing that stability, everybody knew what they did as well. Everybody respected everybody for what they did. Now, I think that was perhaps both good and bad. I think we could have done a lot better by sort of like being a little bit more self-organizing, a little bit more fluid in role. I mean, there was sometimes some tension, healthy tension perhaps, but there was some tension between individuals on the team because of that, because, some people were really busy, some people weren't, they're like, why stop moaning at me, that kind of stuff. But so I think the rhythms, those kind of things, they're very, very important.
Yeah, so the regular meetings, the regular cadence, the release schedule, just the rhythm in general gave a lot of stability.
We all went out. We always go for sushi. In fact, I like the sushi place so much. I got the tattoo of the Samurai Sushi. I remember Samurai Sushi. It's probably closed down. It's probably condemned, probably because they were using like endangered fish or something. But anyway, we used to go there, and we used to go there on Fridays. We used to all go out, it's like crazy stuff like that. It was also, we felt, I mean, maybe this is, I mean, I'm probably saying your audience is saying, my God, tell me something I don't know. And these are all things that we hear a million times, don't we? But felt like it was us versus them a bit.
Oh.
Meaning not us versus them. Perhaps that's not the right phrase, but we were separate. We were in Vancouver, British Columbia. You can't get more separate than that, really. Which is, by the way, just an amazingly beautiful place, and maybe that influenced it a little bit. So this is you should insist on your managers that you have to be in a beautiful place. Hawaii, Vancouver, or the Austrian mountains.
And there's some nice, I know you're in Burlington, Massachusetts, and lo and behold, I look out the window behind you. There's actually some nice woodland behind there.
That is
I take walks through there sometimes.
Also known as a rubbish tip, yes. But the places that you can throw stuff as you drive past in your car is what we know it as. But maybe Burlington isn't quite as pretty, and maybe that isn't as important. But having actually, though, interestingly, even here we've sort of created this little world, with a nice boundary, and we put some walls around it, and it works.
So adding on to the regular meetings and the cadence and the rhythm and stability, you would also recommend sushi and tattoos.
You don't have to eat sushi. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you can obviously have a weekly carrot meeting or something. Yeah. I don't know, have a smoothie. But no, I think that the social stuff is important. I know that, I think maybe sometimes some offices go a little extreme, where they've got like ping pong tables, fuzzball, all that kind of stuff everywhere. And you're like, my God, do people actually do any real work here? But the, regular going out and having a beer or sushi or whatever.
Whatever.
I think it's important. I mean, I know it, we are social animals after all, aren't we? And I think that is incredibly valuable. When I think back to one of my first teams I'd ever worked on, I don't think this was really a high performance team as you'd define it, or a great team, because we very much didn't really deliver on our potential. We got, our leadership wasn't particularly direct in providing a vision. All these kind of things were mistakes. But one thing that we did do was we did build a great camaraderie. It was a really good bonding experience, and again, I learned a great deal from that. So I think the social stuff's important.
Yeah, for sure. So what are a couple of things that listeners can do to sort of reproduce this kind of best team that you were on?
I don't know. I mean, this is the other question as well, how do you reproduce it? Because
come close. Like what are a few key to-dos, key actions that people can take?
I think that you have to remember that everybody's a human and focus on that aspect. I think that you do have to do that. I know I'm a software engineer, so the last thing I want to be doing is telling people to, remember you're a human, but because that sounds awful, doesn't it? But ultimately, I think, find some things like so. For instance, here at Scrum.org, we have a Slack channel that's just sort of getting to know you.
Yeah.
And we put things in it that, like, I bet you didn't know I'm really into Morris dancing. I don't know. I'm not into Morris dancing, but if I was, I could share that. Or I tell you what, a colleague of mine, Steve, did. He shared that he was on a trip, and because he's got Slack everywhere, and he took a photo of a piece of art, and he said, this inspired me, and for these reasons. I was like, oh my God, you're in an art gallery. I didn't know they existed. But secondly, I was like, wow, that's actually kind of interesting that I actually also like that art, ish, and we talked a little bit about that, and it's things like that. So, create a Slack channel called Getting to Know You. That sounds like it's a very practical, geeky thing to do.
And so simple. Yeah.
And so simple. So that's one thing. I think that the cadence thing, crucial. Get those regular cadence, and I'm not just saying that because I love Scrum. Obviously, I do love Scrum, but if you're doing Kanban, if you're doing nothing at all, get that regular meeting schedule, because the world is so complex, and and having those foundations in place is very important. The other thing that, though I didn't do this on RUP team, it's something that we try to do, is we pair and sort of like swap around and try to, pair in each other's, work with each other, like maybe support. I'll go and spend a couple of hours wrecking their day in support, which is like, what do you mean? Well, let's send this email to them. No, let's phone them up. Yeah, let's get on a Zoom with them. Like, no, we've got like 50 people in our backlog. You cannot do that. Okay, you sure? Okay. But it is, I mean, I think it's good to learn about what people do and get to know them and stuff. I mean, if I was a management 3.0 guru, I'd say, what you need to do is you need to invite everybody around and cook a meal together. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think that, maybe they're getting to know you. Kudos cards is another great thing. That's another thing that I've experimented with many times about, hey, you've done a really good job. Thanks. And those things are really valuable.
Nice. Thanks for all those great ideas. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know. I just think that, it's funny. It's actually something that I'm really worried about, actually. So obviously Scrum, big team use, even RUP, big fan of teams. All the situations I've been in, I've always been in teams. Now, sometimes on multiple teams at the same time, which is incredibly challenging. Yeah. But one thing I'm sort of intrigued about is, so RUP had a core team, but then we had hangers-on that used to come in, and I'm always very curious about the sort of the future of teams in respect to that. Yeah. I think that the gig economy, hang on, I need a designer come in, help me, or I need I need a specialist to come in. If I was a football team or soccer team, I would, I need a back rub or whatever. Get somebody in. Should they be in the team all the time? Blooming hope not. You don't need that much massage, or maybe you do. maybe you're a bunch of old geezers like you and I are. Maybe we do actually. So maybe quick note: hire masseuse. There we go. Anyway, the point is, I'm always very intrigued by how much it is. I buy into the keep teams together, blah blah blah. But I also see the value of bringing people into the team frequently. Yeah. So I'm always very intrigued by this. I know on RUP we obviously brought people in and out all the time, and it was great. We had this sort of like energy that created. I've worked on teams where that can be a real nightmare as well. So I don't know if this is sort of last words, but I'm always very confused as to exactly what the composition is. Yeah. And what that illustrates to me is that there isn't one composition and there isn't one model. Yes, I think we know that if you're working on a complex problem, it's important to work together for a period of time. So we know some level of stability is important. But we also know that bouncing ideas off others and having fresh blood and do it is also valuable, right? Yeah. So how the team composed will depend on your situation and on who you are. So don't look for we're going to use the Spotify model, that's the only model to use. I don't think that's right. I mean, it is obviously Spotify, they have a fabulous product and they're amazing engineers and they're doing a great job, but it isn't necessarily right for you. So find things that are right for you, try things, experiment. Maybe kudos cards won't work for you because you're just far too sensible for those, or the back channels or whatever, but maybe a chess league well, I mean, I have no idea if a chess league well, but whatever, where everybody plays a piece, or something. I don't know, maybe there's something that we don't know or I haven't seen that could work for you, but the only way you're going to find that out, right, is experimentation and feedback and transparency and, dare I say, agile, but, I don't know.
Dare you mention some of the values in the Scrum Guide?
I perish the thought. They're all over my wall, so I really should. You need to be courageous. You need to be open. You need to commit to the process. Yeah. All those things are very, very important. Bottom line is, all joking aside, I think that you need to experiment with things to mix it up and to learn, because the one team that I wasn't part of, I wish I had been, was my soccer team from my home city of Leicester. go the Foxes. And the Foxes they won the Premier League, and the wage bill of the Foxes was significantly less than Manchester United or anybody, or actually probably the weakest team in America would have been like infinitely more expensive than these guys. But they won the Premier League, which is the best league, soccer league in the world, in my opinion. I know certainly the biggest group of high quality teams, I would say. I know that the Bundesliga and obviously Spain has a fabulous league as well, and France has its moments. But ultimately they won, and they won not because of the most talented group of individuals. They won because they cared about each other and worked very hard. And yes, they had some talent, and unrecognized talent as well. And they tried lots of things, and they found a system, and they supported themselves to do it. I'm sure there's going to be lots of books about how they won the Premier League, and I'm going to be buying all of them, much to my wife's annoyance. But go
the Foxes.
Go the Foxes, yes. But the bottom line is, I think that they cared about each other. They had a clear, focus. They got a little bit lucky, and when they won it, there was a guy, Jamie Vardy. They were all around Jamie Vardy's house, all of them, the whole team, and they were they love each other. And I think that was very important.
Yeah, I love that you brought that back to where we started. They cared about each other.
Yeah, they did.
Thanks for that. So how can our listeners contact you?
Oh, you can always, Dave.West at Scrum.org if you want to talk about stuff, particularly if you're a Foxes fan. Be sure to check out the blog at Scrum.org. We have some really interesting things, and we have a great community of 220 professional Scrum trainers that are writing some really kind of cool stuff there and delivering stuff, and obviously the webinars that come out from that, or the online stuff that comes out from that. So Dave.West at Scrum.org. Don't be a stranger.
All right. Dave West, product owner at Scrum.org. Thank you again for joining us today. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks.
You're welcome, Richard. Have a good one.
Hi, friends. Thanks for listening. And remember, to support this podcast, sign up for my newsletter at Kasperowski.com.